Hey, I'm Ryan Gresham. This is Kevin Jarnagin, KJ. This is Gun Talk Hunt. I like how the podcast guys will go, this is episode 1 of Gun Talk Hunt. Hunting. We're going to talk hunting today on Gun Talk Hunt.
It's you kind of got a little creepy
That
voice.
That was my public access.
Your public access voice.
All right, welcome to a new podcast from Gun Talk, talking all about hunting. And we had this brainstorm session. We said, what should we call it? Let's call it Gun Talk
Hunt. So if someone has a better name for it, we'll all names will be considered at this point. But
let's call it Meat Eater.
It is. It would be a good one. But I really feel like it's already taken.
Sounds familiar.
But it's hard because in our world the lines are so blurred, because we kind of do a little bit of everything. We do it on the tactical side, we do it on the civilian side, we do the range stuff, we do a little bit of everything. And hunting, it's not our biggest audience, but it's hard to ignore.
Well, the thing is, we are hunters. Right. You're a hunter, I'm a hunter. That's how we grew up in it. And it's funny for Gun Talk, and just a little behind the scenes for the listeners. I mean, obviously, a lot of you guys know I'm third generation in doing this. And as a kid growing up and going on photo shoots for magazine articles and all this stuff, it was always hunting.
Oh, yeah.
There was nothing tactical. And so it's funny now that for a lot of our content, it skews towards the quote unquote tactical side of things, concealed carry or whatever it is, the shooting side of things. A lot of that's driven by the new products that are coming out. And if you have a sponsor and you say, hey, what are some content things, some ideas, they go, well, I want to talk about my concealed carry pistol.
Yeah. And that's the new flashy.
Yeah.
It's hard to, when you get into hunting and you get into all this new stuff, you buy one and typically you're done.
Right.
Whereas on like the tactical side and the range stuff, there's always something new. There's always something new developed. It's not to say that they're not developing new products, but typically in the hunting world, you buy one bolt gun and you're good. You don't have to go out and upgrade.
Well, along those lines, we actually have sponsors for this show.
See how I'm teeing it up for you so you can knock it out?
Today's Gun Talk Hunt is brought to you by Timney Triggers, the world's finest triggers, and by Springfield Armory, which are both companies who've been around a long time. Also, ATN, which is a new way, it's new technology, bringing technology into the hunting side of things. ATN Smart HD Optics take advantage of modern technologies. Look, the copy matches what I just said.
Beautiful.
How about that? I didn't even know. The latest microprocessors, high-res micro displays, and a host of sensors and features. Bottom line is, ATN has thermal, they have night vision, they have day vision as well as night vision that are all in one. It's pretty cool. Many of the Smart HD optics connect to your tablet or your phone to record or stream video, which it's a new way that a lot of people are experiencing their hunting, is making videos. Choose from entire lines of optics, rifle scopes, thermal binoculars. Their binoculars are cool.
There may not be a more millennial-focused company out there than ATN. Seriously, think of all the packed features that this new generation of hunters that we're bringing into the fold. Like, that's they geek out on that type of stuff.
I mean, it's a rifle scope that has Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Okay? And like, give me a break. You can download the new firmware.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm totally up on what firmware is.
But they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. We've used them.
So the opposite side of that, Timney Triggers, right? So Timney, want to be as accurate as possible with your hunting rifle. Timney is a company that's been around for 60, 70 years.
Yeah,
I want to say it's 1947-ish.
That's one of those companies that started on a kitchen table.
Yeah.
When they were like, they're bringing in the old war guns in saying, I want to do better.
That's true. So a Timney trigger feels the exact same each and every time it's pulled. After all, the preparation, the scouting, checking your gear, planning, practicing, hunting hard for days, when the shot presents itself and that deer, that elk stop moving, you have the confidence and experience to make the shot. Trust Timney. Find American-made triggers for a variety of hunting rifles at timneytriggers.com.
Now, we're not getting into it today. I know we're not, because one of these podcasts we will get into triggers and why it makes a difference, and we will get into that. But when I find a trigger works best for me, and Timney does such a dang good job on this, is if that animal is moving, like you've got a coyote running 150 yards out, and you've got to break a clean, crisp shot, that's when it matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you have a gun that has a good trigger and also a trigger that you're very comfortable with, familiar with, that you can make those types of shots. If you're guessing, it's very tough.
Oh, yeah.
So we thought we'd kick off today. We're recording this on June 5th, and we thought we'd kick off today talking about getting into hunting. How did you start hunting? Have you brought people into hunting?
Right.
There are a lot of people I think there are a lot of people considering getting into hunting right now.
Especially in today's environment. You know, you start looking at meat shortages, and we become so dependent as a society on what is provided for us. Eventually, you're going to find out that, oh my gosh, that can be taken away. Right. And so your mind goes to, if I had to, could I provide for myself and my family? And the best, easiest way to do that is in legal hunting seasons.
Yes.
And we had many conversations about this on, I'm good. My meat freezer is full. I can provide for my family, and I don't have to be dependent on someone else to provide my food. Now, if you're a farmer, stuff like that, you don't either. But to be able to harvest your own game is important. And how do we bridge that gap to introduce new people? Because to be honest with you, we really suck at it.
As a hunting community.
As a hunting community, we suck at it because honestly, like it's hard for me to sit there and go, sure, come onto my property, shoot the deer that I've been like trying to like grow over a long stretch of period. But that's what I think hunters go through phases. And I think I'm starting to get past that phase where I have to get the biggest buck every year. I just want some meat. Now, I want to get meat and provide new opportunities for hunters.
So for most people who are hunters, who would dub themselves as a hunter, they started as a kid. They were introduced to it by their dad or their uncle or their grandfather.
Someone significant in their family.
Yeah, a family member who's also a male, typically.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So if you're sitting around today and you're someone who's in your 20s, 30s, or 40s, and you're thinking, man, I kind of would like to try hunting. Yeah. I like the idea of whatever your motivation is. I'd like to be able to control my meat source. I'd like to fill the freezer. I'd like to get perfectly organic, non-GMO, wild meat. It's not easy to do that.
Well, okay. Walk through any Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's, Academy, any big box store, and you really quickly understand like how overwhelming getting into this sport can be. You're not buying a shut football helmet and some football pads and going out and just jumping right in.
Right.
What cartridge are you going to shoot? What game are you going to shoot? What camo is it that time of year? I mean, what's the flavor of the month on a hunting celebrity on TV that you're going to follow?
Yeah.
If you look back on who taught you to hunt, who taught me to hunt, they're out there in a flannel shirt.
Oh, sure.
I mean, they weren't worried about, having this $500 piece of gear that blast ozone, signals or whatever voodoo they do.
I'm not a big, I like to keep it simple. I mean, even there's some hunting that is hard to keep simple, duck hunting. But
to call out one.
Duck hunting.
Hey, do you ever have anybody who sits there and goes, you know what, I really want to provide for my family. I want to get into the easiest hunting possible. How about duck hunting?
Whatever you do.
I've never heard anybody say that.
If you like gear, then you should become a duck hunter.
Yes.
My God. It depends on how you do it. You need a a boat and a motor or a blind or decoys.
Yeah.
And we haven't even gotten to the gun and the ammo and the camo and the waders yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. But, I mean, it's fun.
It's doable, but it's probably not what I would start out on. So how, let's give our listeners a little bit of background on Ryan Gresham and how he was introduced and how he came into being a host on Gun Talk Hunt.
Well, obviously, my dad, Tom Gresham, my grandfather, Grits Gresham, they're in the gun industry. So we had...
Well, Grits, possibly you could make the argument that Grits was the gun industry at one time. I mean...
Well, he was one of the first kind of celebrity hunters, outdoorsmen, that kind of thing. He was on Shooting Sports America, but before that, he was on American Sportsman on ABC. So he would take celebrities hunting, like Bing Crosby, Burt Reynolds, Terry Bradshaw, and that back when celebrities didn't mind being seen hunting.
Right.
And
try to get away with that with like Chris Helmsworth or anyone like that today.
It's actually unique now if someone hunts, is a celebrity who hunts and also will actually talk about it. But back then, this was on ABC. There were only 3 networks, so he would take people hunting, and he actually had a background in wildlife biology. He had a degree from LSU in wildlife biology. So he always tried to insert a little bit of a conservation message into the shows. Of course, my dad, Tom Gresham, probably everybody listening to this knows who he is. But so, yeah, I had a unique situation in growing up hunting. My first memory of going hunting was getting in a little Cessna plane in Anchorage, Alaska, and I was probably 5 or 6 or 7, somewhere in that ballpark. And we would take this Cessna, fly from Anchorage to the Susitna Flats, and land on a dirt road with big tires on this plane. And we went to this duck camp, and everything was marsh. And so all the walkways were marsh, or were raised walkways, because once you got off of the walkway, I mean, it's marsh.
Yeah.
And all the camps were raised. And I had a BB gun. I wasn't hunting. I just was going along for the hunt. And I got to just shoot everything.
Whatever you wanted.
There's nothing in Susitna Flats that doesn't have a Ryan Gresham BB in it. And that's the first time I did it. But yeah, I mean, going squirrel hunting is a great way to get started, because it's just not very difficult.
Social.
It's more social. And I tend to lean towards, although it's changing now a little bit, maybe as I'm getting older and more curmudgeon-y, but I would lean towards the more social type of hunting. Squirrel hunting, duck hunting, pheasant hunting, upland kind of stuff. You're walking around,
I'm the guy
you're talking.
who, like, leave me alone.
Yeah,
like, I'm
KJ,
going
KJ
by
tells
myself.
his wife, "I'm leaving. I'll see you in a couple of weeks." And she's like, "Well, I guess we'll have Thanksgiving without you." Yeah. Actually, his wife is a saint. She's the coolest person ever.
But last year was the first year that I had Thanksgiving in 17 years. I did at home. Yeah. It was the first time in 17 years that I've had Thanksgiving at home, because I'm always on the road. I'm always hunting. But it's funny you bring up kind of your first real memory of hunting, and mine was on my grandfather's farm, and he had 2 big tree rows. It was 640 acres, and there was always turkeys on it, always deer. And I remember walking down the tree row with my dad, and I had a Stevens 410 that he let me carry everywhere. I'd blast all the cans, do kind of that. And a herd of turkeys were coming down the way, and I started chasing them. Like, I was chasing them, like, across the field to the other tree row. And I turned around, and my dad wasn't by me. And I was so pissed that why aren't you? And there was no way I was going to catch a turkey on foot at like 7 years old. And I remember distinctly turning around. I was so mad at him because this was property that I knew well. And he said, "Okay, He says, let me give you a little word of advice. You need to be patient. The word patient, and I think I express that to most new hunters. Like, it's a patience deal.
Yeah.
You've got to bide your time to get in, but I will guide you. And later that night, he took me out and he set me down and he said, "Okay, we're hunting.
Now we're hunting.
Now we're hunting." And he says, "You just got to be patient." And sure enough, a wad of turkeys come in, and that was my first memory. I'm sure I blew the shot. I mean, because I remember my heartbeat, and my heartbeat is still that way all these years later. Like, there was no shut off for me in adrenaline. Like, whether it's a turkey, whether it's a quail, when a bird dog goes on point, and there's a bird there, a quail, a pheasant, whatever it is, and they're about to get up, and you've got to make that shot because that dog's doing his work.
Mm-hmm.
My heart is still pumping. I mean, after all these years, and that's one thing that I think as new hunters, they're going to experience that, and they'll hook themselves immediately.
So let's try to be constructive. We've said it's hard to get into it, but
it is.
But all right, somebody goes, "All right, what do I need to do? Give me the 3, the 5, 10 things I need to do to get into hunting." I
think you have to break it down into, what are your goals? Are you just out to harvest meat? Are you looking for your own thing? But really, there's so much public access nowadays, and we have a great tool. We don't have to go to the county assessor's office and start looking up, records like we did back in the early days on, who owns this property. There's apps on your phone that you can tell who has.
So there
property.
are apps. You have a couple you use. Huh?
I use Onyx, Base Map. I use quite a few different ones so I can make sure. And I think that's one of the more important things I have to tell a hunter is, know your state's regulations, because they're not.
Yeah.
It isn't sweeping regulations across our nation.
Yep, it's different.
Each state kind of centralizes and understands their own game.
Well, and for that matter, there are wildlife management areas that you can go hunt, and there may be rules specific to that area.
Right.
Like you can't hunt after noon, or you can't enter it before 4 a.m. or something like that. And you gotta know the regulations, which is not really the fun part. But once you get used to it, there are a lot of common regulations that you get used to and kind of understand how it works. I think I would not be as worried about the details of which is the correct gun or scope or caliber. Obviously there are appropriate guns for certain types of hunting. If you're going to go deer hunting, you need a caliber that's going to be big enough to take down the deer when you shoot it. But you can get recommendations. Certainly, we've got the internet now. Okay,
oh, yeah.
So you can find the information. You don't have to drive yourself crazy.
Right.
You're not going to really make a wrong choice.
I lean. So I participated in a Big Brothers Big Sisters program, and he's hunting now. And so I've kind of mentored him throughout his little beginning of a hunting career. And his first question, how big of gun do I need? Mm-hmm. Okay, buddy, what are you going after? Oh, I want to shoot a deer.
Yeah.
Okay, what are you going to do after that? Because you're going to be successful. If you're just patient, you're going to be successful. And I think that's one thing that a lot of guys just jump in and think, well, I've got to have all the gear. You don't need a lot of gear. You need a general caliber, something that you can find ammo for in a wide variety of places, that you can hunt multiple game with.
Examples would be
243.
243 is where a lot of people start out. Also
270.
Those are calibers that are common enough that they are chambered into entry-level guns.
Exactly.
Right? So you could, if you pick a kind of an oddball caliber, it may not be chambered in an entry-level priced gun.
Right. And stick with traditional calibers. I mean, we've got just this week, a 6mm arc was introduced by Hornady.
Yeah.
And that's based off the 6.5 Grendel.
Yeah.
You don't need something so obscure.
It's cool, but that's maybe getting into the weeds if you're just trying to start out.
But if you're starting out hunting, if you're starting out turkey hunting and that you're looking at a gun, start out with a 3-inch 870. You know,
Sure.
I mean, something general that you're going to be able. You can take that gun duck hunting. You can take that gun quail, pheasant, any upland bird hunting.
Actually, an 870. So that's a Remington 817, and it could be probably a 12 gauge. If you're comfortable shooting a 12 gauge, you're comfortable with the recoil. That's actually a gun that you can hunt deer with, ducks with, turkey.
You're right.
You can hunt a lot of stuff with that gun.
Maybe that's where you land because it gives you the broadest opportunity.
It's pretty close to a one gun for everything kind of thing.
I don't know. I think guys get too much involved in gear, and you don't need a lot really.
Yeah.
Go sit by a tree and you know the woodsmanship is going to come. Like it's going to be hard at first because you're going to be tromping around in the woods and ease into it. You know, you don't have to be in a rush. You know, you don't have to bag one on the first day, but scout ahead of time and you'll know where to go. You'll pick up the areas.
So, look for public land. There's a lot of public land out there. You can get apps that help you know, where, what's where, and what land you can go hunt on.
Right.
Also, other gear. People get caught up in the gear stuff, but like camouflage. Honestly, it doesn't. It's not really.
It's about breaking up your outline.
Yeah.
That's all camouflage does. And we don't need to sit on and is Optifade better than different multicam or Realtree or Mossy Oak? All these, it's designed to break up your outline.
My dad likes to tell a story that he had a guy who wanted to do a camouflage that it would be a pattern. But when you look real close, all it says is don't move, don't move, don't move, don't move. Because that's really, honestly, movement is worse than anything.
And wind.
Yeah.
Wind. If you hunt the wind,
yeah.
I've gone the entire
spectrum.
spectrum.
Like you think, like speaking to deer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've gone the entire spectrum from, it's like scenting my clothes down, washing them before the hunt, keeping them in separate bags, not changing until I'm about to walk into my hunting area. I've gone that long, and it all comes down to wind. It doesn't matter. I smell like a human.
Right.
That's just a fact of the matter. And I'm in their house. Like, you're going into their house to hunt them.
They know when something's amiss.
Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty smart when it comes to that.
We probably skipped one of the most basic and first steps is doing a hunter's education course, hunter safety.
Oh, yeah.
You do that, even if you're maybe an age or a state where you don't have to do it, that's worlds of help. That's a great place to start.
Yeah, because they're going to go over the firearm safety, and most states will require you to, unless you're over the, you born after like 65, I think it is in most states, sometime around then. And that's kind of a moving target.
You gotta start there. You have to have that, and of course you're gonna have to get a hunting license.
And a lot of that can be done. All of that can be done online.
Yeah.
Nowadays, the internet is such an amazing tool for new hunters. It really is. I mean, go on any YouTube and type in how to hunt, and you're going to get 50,000 videos. Now, how you choose to decipher what's good and what's not, that's going to kind of be up to you. But man, take it from a wide variety of people.
I think zero in on something though. I want to go hunting. Well, what do you want to hunt?
Exactly.
And there's probably, like we were joking about, duck hunting can be really gear intensive. May not be the place to start, or certainly if you can find a buddy or a coworker or someone who is a hunter.
That's what I was fixing to ask you.
Yeah.
How a guy comes up to you and says, I want to hunt. How are you going to help them?
Well, if somebody comes up to me and asks me if I'd like to go hunting, I'm going to try to figure out a way to take them hunting.
There it is.
I have extra guns and ammo and camo and everything, and let's just figure out a time and let's just go.
Yeah.
And I'll teach you as much as I can teach you, and we'll go out a few times.
And you never know, he might be a natural. There's guys that are actually great woodsmen and they don't realize it. And there's guys that, they're just fun to hang out with, and especially social hunts. So he is a hunter. He knows what he's doing. I took a guy out on his first antelope hunt, and you would have thought I took him to Disney World. It really
we have a video about this.
We have a video about this.
And he's a Louisiana guy that hadn't been to Wyoming before.
No.
And it was just
and he
like the
would
coolest
ask me, he was like,
experience.
so what camo are you using? What are you using? I go, oh, I'll take a sage green shirt and tan pants. He goes, what pattern is that? I was like, no, it's a plain shirt, button-up shirt with literally just tan pants.
Yeah.
Like, because you're matching that kind of area, and there's sagebrush and there's tan dirt.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, it could be that simple.
And yeah,
you have a brown shirt, put that on.
Yeah.
You didn't have
It
to.
don't have to. It's something
be
that,
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a sky blue shirt.
So for people hearing this, my guess is, if they're listening to it on Gun Talk Podcast Network, that they are gun owners.
No.
And so they are familiar with guns. Maybe you're a hunter, maybe you're not. Have you ever taken anyone hunting? And I would encourage you, if you're listening to it, if you're a hunter, I know we always talk about it, but seriously, try to introduce people. And that could be out of the box too. I think everybody thinks it's got to be male. Oh, well, if I have a son, you guys get to go hunt, but it doesn't matter.
No.
It could
Teach
be a
that girl to shoot.
Yeah. Your daughter, your wife, your girlfriend, I just feel like they're going to have a great time.
They are. They're going to have a great time. And I have a quick story to share on taking a brand spanking new guy, never shot a gun before. So I take him out to the range. Take him to the range first. Enjoy, get familiar with the equipment you're going to use. He reached out to me. He knows I hunt, and I always give him game meat. Like, it's just something I do. Like, I like to share the game meat because people actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's 100% natural. But this is the one year that he was like, I want to take my own. I want to hunt. Okay, I've got the gun, I've got the camo, I've got everything. Let's just go. Exactly what you said. So we're out on the field on a special doe day. This was a day set aside by the state of Oklahoma to harvest just does, and you can get 2 in a county. So I had no problem with him coming out, shooting a doe. I need to do the management anyway. Mm-hmm. And, we get up, we set up, and it's a beautiful, crisp December morning, and he's looking out over this wheat field, and he's like, man, there's no traffic. I'm like, yeah, we're out in the middle of nowhere. He's like, this is different. And I was like, yeah. And we hadn't seen anything, and I was like, hey, let's ease through here, make the hunt a little bit more exciting, because I knew the deer were going to be there at some point. And we eased through the woods a little bit and crested the hill, and there was a deer out there at 150 yards. Thank goodness it was a doe, because that's the time when a giant buck, and he'd be like, oh, why can't I shoot that one?
Right.
I'm like, well, it ain't season yet. That ship has sailed. But so he lays down, he's prone, he's got a good salt. I'm like, do you got it? Do you got it? And he goes, yeah. Shoots. Deer immediately drops, perfect shot. So I was like, okay, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to let him do this. This is a grown man. I said, okay, you go. I'll go get the truck. You go up, make sure, the deer's dead, and I'll be back. So he goes, and I come up, and he is teared up. Like, oh, really? Yeah. And so I'm like, man, what? You all right? He goes, yeah. He goes, I've never killed anything before, and I wanted to kill this because I knew it was feeding my family. Like, and I know I did it myself. And like, this is a grown man welling up with tears.
Wow.
And when you see that kind of emotion go over somebody for something you kind of take for granted, like, it puts it all kind of in perspective.
It's a new way for you to experience hunting and appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely.
You can get jaded if you go hunting all the time and you're like, whatever. I think
that's part of the reason why we suck. Yeah. And it really is. It's part of the reason why we suck getting people out, because we take it for granted and we just say, nope, we're going. And we need to do better, and I need to do better.
It's also tough. I'll tell you another thing that's tough is in our culture now, people move around a lot. It's not uncommon to move to a new state for a job, and that is very difficult to move to a totally new place, and you may not have any connections to friends or land or whatever who are doing it. So that's another kind of tough thing. I think probably social media can be actually helpful. It's one of the few things it's helpful with. Is that could be a resource for you. And I just I'm glad we were kind of covering this today, and we can dive into it more and more as we go.
We'll dive into it multiple times, I'm sure.
But, you know, if you're interested in hunting and getting into hunting, ask somebody. Ask us. Send us an email.
KJ@guntalk.com.
Yeah.
I'll help you. I'll guide whatever questions you got. Send them to me. I've hunted all over this continent, and I love it, and I love helping people out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first episode.
Oh, I think it was a good one, and honestly, I could talk about this for days.
We
so
could.
That's
why I'm like, God, we
off.
could ramble on for hours about this. We'll have like one listener left.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for listening to our first episode of Gun Talk Hunt. And if you have not been hunting, you got to give it a try. And if you are a hunter, you got to take some people out. You got to do it. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week.